Jesus and his disciples were walking across Jerusalem when they saw a blind man. Now, this was a blind man that they had seen a lot. Everyone around town knew him. He was there, he begged for food or money or whatever anyone would give him. And they know that he had been blind pretty much his whole life. And one of his disciples was wondering why that was, because they thought that if there was something wrong with you, like you were blind or you were crippled, that it had to be your fault or your parents' fault. It was somebody's fault that you were blind. And so one of his disciples asked him, well, why was this man born blind? Whose fault was it? Was it him or was it his parents? And that may seem like a silly question to ask, but that's what they thought at the time. That's what his disciples thought. And Jesus knew that that's what they thought, and so he tried to tell them how they were wrong about that. He's blind so that God's work can be shown. We have to do the works of him who sent us while there is still light in the world, and I am the light of the world. Then Jesus does something a little unexpected. He goes down, kneels down to the ground, and spits into dirt. Yeah, he spit into dirt. That's a little gross. And then he went and he made a little mud pie with the dirt and his spit. And he's got like this spit mud in his hands now. And he takes this Jesus spit mud and he goes up to the blind man and sticks it on his eyes. Now, I'm going to point out that in the current public health environment, taking your spit and putting it on another person's face is not acceptable, and it is not proper social distancing. It was a different time and place, and it's Jesus, so it's okay. But don't you go around doing that. So after taking this spit mud from the ground and putting it on the blind man's face, he sends the blind man over to this pool of Siloam. And so he goes to the pool, washes his face, and he could see. He could absolutely see. He goes and he runs home, and all of his neighbors see him, and they're like, wait a minute, isn't that the guy that was blind beggar that lives next door to us? I mean, he can see now, what? And someone's like, no, that's not him, it just looks like him. It's another guy that looks like him, it can't possibly be him. But no, the others say it is him. It's absolutely him. And they go up to him and they're like, look, how are your eyes open? How can you see? This man called Jesus healed me. Wow, that's crazy. Where is this man? Where is this Jesus? And the blind man says, I don't know. I guess he's actually not the blind man anymore. He was the formerly blind man. I got to call him the formerly blind man now. That's going to be a little confusing. Well, do you know who gets word about this? The Pharisees. Well, the Pharisees, they didn't like Jesus. Now, the reason they didn't like Jesus is they thought that they were the ones that were in charge of all of the religious stuff. They're the ones that are in charge of it. They're the ones that know things. They're the ones that go around preaching. And this other guy going around and talking about religious things that don't agree exactly with what they say, well, they really don't like that. And then he goes around healing people. Well, they really don't like that. So the Pharisees get this formerly blind man. And what do they say to him? Who healed you? Yeah, they just go up and they just yell at him. Who healed you? And he's like, this man called Jesus healed me. Bah, Jesus. We don't like Jesus. We tried to stone him earlier today. Yeah, seriously, go back to chapter 8. We did, but he got away. But we don't like him. And he says, this man Jesus, he went and he spit in the ground and made some mud. Like, what? He spit in the ground and made mud? Yeah, that's kind of gross. But he went and he took that mud spit and he put it on my face. He put the mud spit on your face? Yes, he put the mud spit on my face. And then he sent me to the pool and told me to wash. And then, once I washed it off, I could see. And the Pharisees say, he can't be from God in doing this because it's Sabbath. And healing people on Sabbath is work. And he's working on the Sabbath, which goes against God's laws. So we know without a doubt that this man could not be sent from God. Now that's kind of crazy that healing people and doing good on Sabbath is a bad thing, but they were just so desperate to try to come up with anything against Jesus that this is what they decided. And they say, what do you think of this man that's going around healing people on the Sabbath? And the formerly blind man says, I think he's a prophet. And they're like, a prophet? Bah! We don't believe that you were even ever blind. You were faking it all this time. There's no way that this Jesus guy went and healed you. So they decide, we're going to find out. We're going to make sure. We're going to prove that this guy wasn't born blind. So they go and they find his parents. And they go and they drag his parents in. And they get the parents in there. And they're like, is this your son? And they say, yes, this is our son. Was he born blind? And they say, yes, he was born blind. He was absolutely born blind. Who healed him? And their answer to this question, he's an adult. Go ask him. Yeah, that's exactly what they said. We know he is our son. We know he was born blind. How he was healed, we do not know. He is of age. Ask him for himself. Now, the reason that this formerly blind man's parents were trying to get out of this question is that they knew that the Pharisees were going to kick anybody out of the synagogue that had anything nice to say about Jesus. And they were actually kind of scared of him. And so they figured since their son was a legal adult that he could speak for himself and that they didn't have to get involved in this. And they refused to say anything else about it. So the Pharisees are starting to get kind of irritated with this whole thing now because they are not getting any answers that they want. The answers that they want is that this whole thing is a complete and absolute fraud and a fake, but they are not finding any evidence of that. They're finding evidence contrary to that it actually is a miracle, which they cannot accept because Jesus sure can't be going around doing that stuff. They get the blind man again, and they go and they bring the blind man in, and they sit him down, and they talk to him again, and they ask him, were you born blind? And he's like, yes, I was born blind. You're sure you were born blind? Yes, I'm sure I was born blind. Who healed you? The man named Jesus healed me. Ah, Jesus, we don't like him. What did he do to heal you? He spit in the dirt. He spit on the dirt. Yeah, he spit on the dirt. He made mud dirt. Ah! And he put the mud dirt on your face. Oh, that's gross. And then he sent me to the pool. Yeah. And he told me to wash it off. And when I could wash it off, I could see. Ah! We don't believe this story. And they just kept going over and over and over with, who healed you? We don't believe you. Tell us the truth. Tell us the truth. Who healed you? And finally, the former blind man has had enough of this questioning. And the next time they asked him, how did you get healed? He's asked the Pharisees, why do you keep asking me these questions? I've already told you the answer. Do you want to become disciples of his too? Oh yeah, they did not like that. It literally says here in verse 28, they hurled insults at him. You're this disciple of this Jesus guy here. We're disciples of Moses. We know Moses was sent from God. As for this guy, we don't know where he comes from. Then the formerly blind man says something. He says, isn't it amazing that I'm the one that was born blind and you're the ones who can't see? You don't know where he comes from, yet he opened my eyes. In all of time, it's never been heard of that someone has opened the eyes of a man born blind. If this man was not from God, then he could do nothing. And now they have had it. This is the last straw for the Pharisees. They are done. And they go, ha! You, this man born in sin, are lecturing us? And they threw him out. And when they say they threw him out, it doesn't mean that they kicked him out of the building. They threw him out and told him, you can't come to the synagogue anymore. You can't come to church anymore. You're gone. You can never come back here. You are not welcome here ever again. So how would you feel if you got told that you couldn't go to church? Well, actually, that's kind of a funny question at the moment because we're kind of all being told that we can't go to church right now, and we are not really happy about it. But with him, it wasn't just something that may be happening for a few weeks like what's happening with us. This was a permanent thing where they say you can never ever come back to church ever again. But this isn't where the story ends because word had gotten around that this had happened. I mean, this blind beggar that everybody knew starts going around and seeing, and the Pharisees are dragging him and his parents in and questioning them. This gets a lot of attention across town, and word of this gets back to Jesus. And Jesus goes and looks for the formerly blind man. So Jesus finds him, and he asks him, do you believe in the Son of God? And the man says, yes, tell me who he is so I can go to him. I want to see him. Then Jesus says, you have seen him, and in fact, he's the one speaking to you now. The formerly blind man kneels down and says, Lord, I believe. That was all that was important to this man. What the Pharisees said to him, what they did to him, what they did to his parents, he didn't care. It was just all he cared about was Jesus. He found Jesus, and that's all that he was needing. And was even before he even thought to start looking for Jesus, Jesus was already looking for him. And so, it doesn't matter what other people say to you or what other people believe. It doesn't matter if they believe Jesus or if they make fun of him or make fun of you. It doesn't matter. If you love Jesus, that's what's important. And whenever you're in trouble, even before you have a chance to start thinking about it, Jesus is already looking for you. And he will always look for you. And if you want him to, he will always find you.